Good afternoon, Jan. Oh, there you are.
Hi guys.
Good afternoon.
New Year. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Is it already 2025?
Yeah, I'm afraid so.
Yeah. Wow. Just made it in time. Whew.
Nice. Nice.
And then I still forgot my password for Discord, so I had to look it
Oh.
up. So how are you doing?
Oh man. Yeah, yeah. There's of course a whole lot of projects starting up as the year begins. You know, uh, rounding out 24. I thought that it's like okay, I'd finished a whole bunch of stuff. I can just kind of not commit to anything else for a while. But nope, nope. I said yes anyway.
Yeah, it's oh my, getting air damp on my glasses.
Mm.
Been running too fast
Oh my.
to get here in time. No, I was still preparing the car because tomorrow here in France, in Europe in general, cars have to be checked yearly or 2 yearly.
Mm-hmm.
A technical inspection.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
tomorrow early morning the car has to go, but it was very dirty. It was not checked. There was nothing done.
Mm.
So okay, let's do that first. So finish that. And last
Yeah.
week we had family coming. Did you did you get my message
I did.
last
Yes.
week?
I'm afraid I'd.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't. Um, I didn't get it before the stream. I just completely checked out, and I wasn't looking at email at all. And yeah,
Yeah.
I had prepared something to demo, so I
Mm.
was like, I had the script anyway. But but yeah, then when I did see it, yeah. Sorry, I didn't reply. Yeah,
No, no,
certainly
no,
didn't
but
reply in time.
I didn't realize it until this morning. I went back to the video of didn't watch it completely of last week. Or was it the one from 2 weeks ago? Don't remember. But at once you say, yeah, perhaps Jan is joining. I say no, but I sent a message, and then I realized that I didn't get any confirmation. So I say,
Mm.
oh, did he did he receive it? But
Yeah,
never mind.
that must have been last week because yeah, the week before I you I knew ahead of time, but uh,
Hmm.
yeah, no big deal. Got it. Yeah,
But so,
did
if I
the
understand,
demo.
understand well, you have policies now,
Yes, yes. So
which is
yeah,
I just saw the beginning of the video, but if I got it right, it's a combination of authorization, what's the other one?
distribution.
The purge and distribution
Hmm.
rules. And
Yes,
all that together forms a policy which you can just upload with a command line uh, to the replicator.
yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's basically what I'm working toward is a multi-replicator demo. You could just Docker compose up,
Mm.
um, and now you've got a whole bunch of replicators talking to each other, and so you should be able to configure this mesh of network of replicators without
Mm.
writing any code, yeah, without deploying your own image. And so yeah,
Mm.
that's what that's working toward.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good for the future.
Yes. Yeah. Indeed. Yeah. So yeah, I've had authorization and distribution rules that you could upload to the replicator as a service, and so clearly replicator as a service is not running your code, but it's still enforcing those rules. Um, so yeah, next I need to be able to apply purge uh, conditions on the replicator as a service, and then accept the full policy file. Um, but then, yeah, Replicator as a service already has a wizard that you can configure Apple or Google authentication.
Mm.
Um, so it's got the identity provider built into it so that it can use one of those identity providers, then generate a new token for you, which then the replicator itself consumes. So it's all bundled together. But yeah, when you're deploying as a Docker container, um, I don't want that container to play the role of identity provider. There are other solutions out there, and so yeah, in the demo last week, I showed off Fusion Auth, which is a containerized identity provider that can be configured for Apple, Google, all the other socials, also password, passkey, multi-vector. So all the things that I'm not going to implement, but somebody else already has. And so, yeah, choose your own identity provider. Here's a good one. And then, now you can, in addition to the policies, you can set up the OAuth 2 parameters that the replicator uses in order to validate those tokens.
Okay.
So showed how to do that, how to get those two working together.
But so that's because in the replicator as a service, it was quite a complicated workflow. Because you implemented OAuth, but like in a double sense.
Yes.
Is that the same in the Docker version?
It ends up being those two layers, but they're now split across two different products entirely. So the replicator is just validating an OAuth token, but the OAuth container or the Fusion Auth.
The service service is in a separate Docker.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So Fusion Auth is a company that provides this tool, and you can, it's open source. You can use their tool to just, you can build it yourself if you want to, or you can just grab the container image off of their Docker Hub organization, and it's open license. You can use that as much as you want, and so they're following the same kind of process that a business model that Jinaga is that it's completely open. You can use it, but if you want us to host it, then you pay for that.
Okay. It's a little bit like Jinaga.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you already use Auth0 or Okta or Ping or any of these other identity providers, then you just configure them to authenticate against whatever downstream identity provider you want to use, or upstream, I guess, and then generate an OAuth token, and then give your Jinaga replicator those parameters, and it will validate it.
Because so what Jinaga needs is just the standard token and the standard communication with the authentication service.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
So it's all standards. So it all plugs together.
No, then it's completely independent of whatever identity provider.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was actually the reason for the that two-step process in the replicator as a service, is that I didn't want the Jinaga replicator itself to rely upon an Apple token or a Google token. I wanted to convert that into a standard OAuth token that the replicator could understand. And then in order to make it easy for somebody to just sign up, create a replicator, and get started, then I basically added the identity provider specifically for that token, and specifically expecting Apple or Google. I added those to the replicator as a service. So yeah, as things evolve, there will be more identity providers on replicator as a service, but as far as the container, you get to configure it yourself. So set up your own identity provider and configure the connection.
I'm gonna try that once I cleaned up my backlog for last year.
Yeah.
But in meanwhile, I have a new list of things to do.
Yeah.
but okay.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, you currently with DWS have a password-based identity provider. Um,
Hmm.
is that um, is that like using .NET? Uh, what's that
No,
identity? It's,
no, it's just a code that they have to enter into the software, which is compared to a code in the database.
okay,
So it's not so good.
okay. Well, then this is going
But
to be
yeah.
a great starting point for
Hmm.
improving that solution. So yeah, you
Yeah.
can learn your way around FusionAuth. Give that a try if that's going to work for you, and you want to self-host FusionAuth, or if you want to pay them for hosting, then that can be your identity solution. Or if you want to go with Auth0, you know, same thing will work.
No, it's Jinaga who brings me in touch with all these possible
Yeah,
solutions. Because at the time I did everything myself, but it was always a solution which was not it works, but it's
hmm
compared to today's standards not good at all.
yeah, yeah. At the time that you implemented it, a lot of these options didn't exist. So
Hmm.
um, yeah, you pretty much um, pretty much had to roll your own. I remember that um, .NET. It was oh goodness, it was a thing that predated Identity Server. So Identity Server is a .NET open source project that basically is a full identity provider um, running as a .NET web application. Um,
Mm.
but there was I can't remember the name of it, but there was a library. It was actually I think part of the framework itself. I think this was before NuGet packages as well. Um, and and yeah, you could use these components to basically construct your own web application that
Mm.
was an identity provider.
Was that the library with all the encryption algorithms?
It used all the encryption algorithms, but this was another
Mm.
layer on top of that. And they had
Okay.
a um, a SQL script that created a whole bunch of tables for you. So this was in SQL Server. So you run this, get these tables,
Mm.
and now don't touch that. That's a separate database from your application database.
Mm.
And then, yeah, give the identity provider that connection string. And then it did the self service account creation and password reset. And um, yeah, then there was like a little hook to say, okay, when I need to send an email to close the loop on password reset, then I'm going to call this. So you hook that up to your email provider, whatever that happens to be. Um, yeah, it was pretty low level pieces that you could put together to make an identity solution.
Yeah, the world has changed a little bit.
Yep, yep. OAuth didn't even exist at that time, so now it's um, yeah. I remember the first version of OAuth. I remember OAuth 2 and the big kerfuffle about bearer tokens, and it's like, yeah,
Mm.
you're ruining OAuth. And then OpenID Connect, which is basically just OAuth, but
Mm.
acknowledging the fact that auth doesn't stand for authorization; it stands for authentication. So uh, let's just use it that way. Um, I'm oversimplifying. That's not actually true, but yeah, now we're. I was just reading about a new standard that was introduced in 23 um, called Depop. It's uh, uh, yeah, basically a proof of possession. I forget what the D stands for. Demonstration. Demonstration of proof of possession. And the idea is that with OAuth tokens, you've got they're a bearer token. So
Mm.
as soon as you pass your token to somebody to say to prove, hey, this is who I am, this is what I can do. Um, Now they've got that token, they can use that to act on your behalf. And so you have to have that implicit trust relationship with who you share the token with. And sometimes it's useful to call this service in between with a token like for example, I log in with GitHub, and So I call this service and I want to not only prove that I am Michael L. Perry on GitHub, but also I want that service to be able to read my repositories. I want it to look at issues. And
Mm.
so it's going to then take that same token that it used to verify my identity and then pass that along to Google or GitHub. And so um, I can control what it can do by setting scopes. So I say I'm going to log in, and the only scopes I'm going to allow are the ones that let you read issues.
Mm.
So so it's limited in what it can do, but it still can continue to work on your behalf, especially if you give it the permission, the scope that allows it to refresh tokens. So then it can talk to GitHub and say, "Hey, I've got this token. I need to, to get another one to work for another
Mm.
hour." So it can keep you logged in. Um, so, uh, so there's a bit of extending trust with relation to bearer tokens that you might not want in every scenario. And so um, with Depop, what you do is, in addition to that bearer token, you also have an extra token that you as a consumer, without even talking to the identity provider, can generate yourself. And that proves that I am in possession of the private key that that initiated
Mm.
this whole conversation.
Yeah.
So you keep that on the client, and then so when I log in with GitHub, my client application would log in with GitHub and uses that private key during that login process um, to authenticate. But then every time it makes an API call to GitHub, it then basically encodes that endpoint with a nonce, a number used once, and signs that with that private key. So if I were to give that token to somebody else, they don't have the private key, so they couldn't create that Depop token.
Okay, so in that way, they know that it is you and not somebody else.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was
But then how can you still delegate things?
yeah. Yes, and now you get to control the use cases. So basically, the service provider, like in this case, GitHub is acting as identity provider and service provider. But if you think about GitHub just as the service provider of, here's this endpoint, and I'm going to return, the list of public repositories. Um, so that service provider now gets to choose what the possible use cases are, and in that case, they're like, well, yeah, this is the sort of thing that people are going to want to delegate. So,
Mm.
so I will continue to accept bearer tokens without a Depop token. Um, but then other endpoints might say, no, I need to have a Depop token. They're still pretty new, so it's going to
Mm.
take a while for service for endpoints to start to require them. But then when you now as the consumer, when I log into it to GitHub, now using it as an identity provider, I get to choose the authentication flow. So I choose to create a bearer token that requires Depop.
Mm.
So um, so now if I'm starting a use case where I don't want delegation, then I can create that Depop token, uh, or I can create the bearer token that requires the Depop token and use that to identify myself with the third party. But now that requirement of this requires Depop is inside the token, and they can't remove it because that would invalidate the signature. So so now I've initiated that whole conversation with that requirement, and so they can't use that token.
Mm.
It's really quite clever.
Yeah. So once you start using that Depop, then there is no way back in fact.
Right, right. Yeah, if
Mm.
you If you decide that you really do want to delegate, then you would have to go back to the identity provider and get a different token.
Mm-hmm.
And now you could use that one for delegation.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see where that gets used.
Yeah. That was just in 23. That was a year and a half ago that was created. So yeah, a lot of the things that we're going to be depending upon now didn't exist when you first started DWS. So.
I saw a message from LinkedIn coming in.
Oh yes.
Where a certain Michael L. Perry was very interested in artificial intelligence for 2025.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That
So
was.
wondering what you have in mind with Jinaga.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was a comment on my friend Eric Garza's post. So yeah, he runs a consulting company as well. So love to to boost him up as well as improving, and so yeah, he was talking about what should we be thinking about in 25, and so at improving yeah, we've got this. We had this initiative last year to to really have an AI focus as a service provider, so that we could help our clients to understand how to build applications using AI. So yeah, I've been part of that. Ran some workshops where we brought the technical executives in, the CTOs and the directors of technology, and just kind of brainstormed with a whole bunch of other executives in the room about how AI can help with your with your services and your applications. And there's we also started running classes more at the developer level of this is how you actually use these tools. Whether it be a vector database in order to embed all of your documents and then retrieve them. Use a retrieval augmented generation to have somebody have a conversation with your documents. All the way up to to defining your own models. So machine learning. Here's a labeled data set. Here's how you can build a model based on that data set and make predictions. So all those things. Not only did we have the expertise in house, but also ran some classes to teach others how to do that. I've not been quite so involved in that part because there are people much better at machine learning than I am in the company. But yeah, heading into 25, we recognized that that the way that that people are incorporating AI into their their everyday work, they need some guidance just at that level. So we're not even talking about building an application or training a model. Just how do you incorporate AI into your work? And it's a thing that I've been doing on the stream for a couple of years now. Yeah. So yeah, I've had many conversations with developers about how Copilot is good for test-driven development, and it's good for converting from a specification to like a SQL script or something like that. How it's not good for coming up with a design. You can't just give it a requirement and then it comes up with a good design. It'll come up with a design, but that design will very rarely work. So having these conversations, we're like, wait a minute, we need to have these conversations more publicly. So yeah, we've started first of all within the organization, getting non-technical people into that conversation. So how are you using AI in order to help write proposals? And so it's like it doesn't take away all of the the effort and thought that you have to put into the proposal in the first place, but it does a good job of the copy, paste, search, and replace.
Mm.
So yeah, teaching our folks how to do that, and so in the process of kind of beginning those conversations, it started to become apparent that the next generation of services that are available to everybody, the Microsoft, the Office Copilot, as opposed to the GitHub Copilot, um, those sorts of things, they are starting to use the agent model. So yeah, when I saw Eric posting about what should we look for in 25, I was like, yeah, 24 was the year of the RAG. We did that. 25 looks to be the year of the agent. What's that going to look
Okay.
like? Yeah.
Mm. But you don't have immediately something in Jinaga that can where it can benefit of.
Yeah, I've got some thoughts about what I want to do there. One of the thoughts is kind of continuing on that idea that anybody who has skills in Excel should be able to create an application. And so I have started down the path of with ChatGPT, creating your own custom GPTs, basically creating a system prompt of guiding an existing model to create a Jinaga application. Or it's like, okay, pare that back. It's not going to do the full application. Just define a historical model for me. Help have a conversation partner that could then apply the rules of historical modeling and come up with a model. And still, it was not very good at constraining itself. It was trained on far too much. So it's like, oh, this is how you do database applications. This is how you do distributed applications. Like, no, come on back. We're just talking about this one set of rules. Don't exceed these rules. And one of the things I found is that when you tell an LLM not to do something, that basically just puts that into its attention, and that's all that it does. So, classic, challenge: don't think about elephants. Well, now you've got an elephant in your brain. So yeah, I couldn't prompt my way into making the LLM not do mutable stuff. So yeah, start the conversation. It's like, oh, this is starting out pretty good, but then it's like, oh no, you brought in something that's not allowed within the system. So that experiment not going so well. On the other side, the idea of integrating LLMs and machine learning into a Jinaga application, that makes a lot of sense, and it's really just using the same tools that we already have for LLMs and machine learning, but just within the historical modeling framework. So the idea that you've got services that run on the back end and are you don't have the front end directly connecting to those services. So it's like that. Let me bring up that picture. Yeah, if I go to the just Jinaga.com or Jinaga.net, I can also do the. I didn't start the.
I just started the Zoom.
Okay. Okay. But on the main screen of both of the Jinaga sites, we have a diagram. There we go. Boom. Yeah, so that's what I'm looking at right now.
Mm.
Um, so this is uh, the idea that you've got your front end applications, and they are talking to a cluster of replicators, um, and then there's some sort of firewall here. So there's this is the back end applications, and you cannot directly address them. So there's an internal replicator back there, and and then a few lambdas, a few services that are running in the back in the private network. So so one of the places where AI and machine learning really fits in well with the Jinaga application is that you can have something in the back end that is running the model, or even building the model, and it's fed by this history of facts. So uh, so yeah, that separates what's happening on the front end from what's happening on the back end. If you take a look at ChatGPT, it's basically here's a front end talking directly to the LLM. Just it's piping straight through. Um, and and actually, a lot of the systems that people are building are, here's the application, and then on the side, here's the chat box that's going straight to an LLM, and then it has an API so that it can, affect that application. But with this model, that LLM is a service in the back, and it can see all of the different facts that flow through the system, and so you can customize a service to do a specific task within within that set of facts.
Mm.
So yeah, when I think about agents, um, the way that that we're currently putting agents together is basically several different LLMs, each with a different system prompt. It might even be a completely different model in the back end. That part doesn't matter too much. Some models are just tend to be better at technical tasks, and some better at planning tasks, or those sorts of things. But you give each of them a different system prompt. So you give the the kind of the overall goal to the first one, and it's designed to create a bunch of tasks. Actually, there's a really great demonstration of this on GitHub.
So at that moment, all the agents would just put facts into the private replicator.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the...
Yes. Yes. So yeah, with this model, each of the agents would be a separate service, and they're not connected directly to one another, but instead they are all connected to the same historical model. And so so yeah, with the kind of the current model for agents, you would just take the output from one of them, and that would become the input to the next, and that next would use a different prompt on that input, and perform some operation on it. Like here you are the the CEO of this organization, and I just gave you a task. Now break that down and delegate that to your executive team. And then this one, hey, you are the CTO, and you just received these orders from your CEO.
Mm.
Break this, find the technical requirements here, and implement a plan. And then another agent down here, you're a developer. Here's the plan that you just received. Write some code. So so yeah, put these agents together, and then let them basically give each other plans. Give each other prompts.
They communicate through the replicator in that case.
Well, in the way that I want to do that, they would communicate through the replicator. In the way that it's currently implemented in a lot of systems, they don't. They just the output is piped from one to the input of the next. with some, sometimes they have little gates in between. Like I'm going to validate the output, make sure that it meets some kind of condition, and only then will I send it off to the next one. And let me show you what GitHub currently has. This one is in beta, but let's suppose that I've got, let's suppose I've got a an issue that I want to work on. So, like this one. Wow, there's really nothing there. Let's go to okay, yeah, this one. I actually had a conversation with ChatGPT about this goal, and then kind of iterating over that conversation came up with this is a decent plan. So create custom bindings for Azure functions. So I think this pull request here, yeah, this one came from that goal. So yeah, here's the Copilot Workspace station. So Copilot Workspace is basically an agent-based system that that goes from requirements to pull request. So yeah, with this one, yeah, the entire input was please implement a solution to issue 146, and it used that issue as additional context. So now it's like we have these things together, and that's our context. And then it always adds this one task to start things off. How do I solve this task? That's the one thing that it does. It starts off with this brainstorming session where basically it the system prompt directs it to first look at the repository and determine the current behavior of this code base with respect to this requirement. So it looked at the current behavior. Nope, Jinaga function binding does not exist in the repository. All these things, and then describe the system after it implements the that the task is working, and it says, okay, this is what we have to do to get from current behavior to desired behavior. And so basically it's creating a plan.
So these are things that's not you that made this up.
Correct.
Okay.
Let's just for fun, let's.
It would be nice if you could show that on another issue that on an open issue.
Yeah. For some reason it's not doing the verify. Let's see if we can solve the identity problem real quick, and then yeah, I'll give that a shot.
It doesn't let you log in. I think the artificial intelligence don't want to have competition. Michael, I don't want to.
Okay, well, let's just go back here, and I think I might have some issues here that are a little bit more fleshed out. Yeah, okay, this is a decent start. This isn't the result of a conversation. This was just me saying, oh, I want to, I want to be able to do this. So to maintain a Jinaga server, an operator will need to export facts from one Postgres fact store and import them into a different one. So you've got the, as I want so that it's got the goal. So from here, I can open. Wait, no, it's not open with. See, this is just chat with the issue, but that's not the one. I always lose it. always have to remember exactly where the button is to do this. But why am I having trouble with this? Oh, okay, right here. Open in Workspace. Yeah, so let's see if the sign-in is going to work this time. Okay, there we go. So it brought in the text from the issue. And how do I solve this issue? So now it's just spinning. So it's coming up with the current behavior. So the code base does not include a command line tool. And the proposed solution, yes, the command line tool now imports factual or JSON export files. So this is a now here I can add more descriptions to the current behavior. It's like, okay, this is what it came up with, but I'm the human here. I know better, so I can add more things here. I can edit or delete them, so I can change the plan. So this is a feature that is referred to as steerability. So I can steer the AI in order to do the next thing. So if I look through this,
and if, for example, to the current behavior you add an item, will he automatically adapt the proposed solution?
No, it will not automatically adapt the proposed solution. But the next step is going to generate a plan from that proposed solution. So all of this information will be available to it. If I want to have it just completely regenerate this, I can just conversationally work through this. So yeah, here we are talking about this is an NPM project. I want to use npx in order to run the command line. So given that, it's now going to take that as additional context that wasn't in here, and then it's going to come up with a different set of information. So it's now got this add to task button. So I read through this and say, yep, it inferred the right thing. So now I add to task, and that becomes now part of the script here. So now how do I resolve this issue? It's going to come back with a there we go. Let's see here. It didn't change the. Yeah, it didn't change this. This doesn't say anything about npm. Okay, I thought I was going to regenerate this. But yeah, in addition to me coming up with new ideas to put in here, it's got some suggestions for ideas. So I might not have thought about something. What format should the export file follow? Well, I already know the answer to that. Let's see what it comes up with. In fact, it says right here, factual or JSON export. So yeah, in fact, here is that pretty much, I think, is the JSON format that it already implements, which it could see from the README, it could see from tests, from the code itself. So it had lots of opportunities to find this. So yep, that's useful information. I could add a task for that, but it looks like it already knows about that. So let's just go with what we've got here and generate a plan. So now the plan is going to come up with a set of files that we want to change, and it kind of stages those files over here, and the different changes that we want to make to those files. So basically, that's the output of an LLM that took this input, and all the input from here, and had a system prompt to say, find what files need to be changed and make a list of the changes to apply to those files. So
yeah, it goes in a good direction, but so finally you still have to implement the files yourself.
Nope. Now the next thing is implement selected files. So it's still steerable at this point. You can add items. You can edit or delete these items. But yeah, hey, you add documentation. Add a new script to package.json so that you can run the importer tool using npx. Yeah, that all looks good. So and yeah, this was you see the green plus, this is a brand new file. It says, I'm going to create a brand new file for you. So yeah, you say implement selected files, and now this does the GitHub Copilot thing that you're used to. It's like, here's some chat. Now go make some code changes. And you can see it does that with the context of Jinaga. So it knows I've already got a class out here called or a file HTTP line reader.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I can use that create line reader function in order to do this kind of stuff. So it saw that used in a different part of the code, said that's going to be useful here. I'll pull it in. So there is the proposed implementation of the import function. Then here we've got now it's added the import script. So it's running TS node. I don't actually think I've got TS node. Yeah, I don't use TS node in this project. Instead, I compile things and then I use node. So
now you can go back and add that to the initial constraints.
Yeah.
And then he will readapt.
TS node project. So, yeah, it's in a place that that people couldn't see it on the stream. But yeah, basically said, I don't use TS node in this project. Use the compiled JavaScript files. So it should go through and update the implementation.
When you wrote it, it appears at the bottom of the screen, in Zoom at least.
Yes, yeah, so. Yeah, and on the stream, our faces are cutting half of this off. Yeah, it didn't change the package JSON. Let's give it one more shot. Package.
That intelligence must be female. Doesn't listen.
Hey now. Let's see. TS node. Change the change that to use node against the compiled JavaScript. Okay, let's see if it can do something with that. Okay, so it went back through this one again. Here we are with the package JSON. You can see it generating. Yeah, and then here. Okay, there we go. Now import uses node. Okay. It looks in the dist folder. Okay.
Yeah, but it's amazing. It does understand things.
Yeah.
Of course, it has the whole internet to go find information.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to understand what we mean.
Yes. Yeah. So this is a really good example of kind of the fundamental truth of where we are right now with
Mm,
AI. That if you like with a horse, you've got the idea that you hold the reins tight, and you control the horse, or you give it its head and
mm,
relax the reins and then let it do what it's going to do. Um, yeah, with this one you can't give it its head. It's uh, yeah, it's gonna run off in you know
mm,
some direction you don't want it to go. So you've got to hold those reins, um, and yeah, basically it's doing within those individual agents the copy paste search and replace. It's doing that really well. So the information about how to use npm in order to run things from or npx in order to run things from the command line, that information is out there. There's lots of documentation that it could copy paste in order to
mm,
talk about how you should use it, and then it's got the context of your application, so now it can search and replace, and it can put your stuff in there. Um, it just does that in a different way than we usually do with Notepad of truly copy
mm.
paste search and replace. Um, and you could see every time it was writing the file, it wasn't going into the file and making edits. It was regenerating the whole file. So it's like the way that it's going to copy paste is going to take that whole file, and the context is going to read each word. It's like, does that word make sense here? Yes, and most of the time it's yes, so it just copies it in. Does this word make sense? No, it doesn't. I'm going to change it to this. Um, and doing it that way, it can pick up more things than your traditional search and replace would pick up. Um, so, uh, yeah, if there's some other part of the README file that would be affected by this change, it'll say, "Oh, I should change that too," and it'll pick that up. Sometimes it does a good job of that. Sometimes it changes something and it's like, "No, don't do that," and you have
Mm.
to pull it back. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with this so far. So let's create a pull request. And so it comes up with branch name, add importer tool. It comes up with a title. Actually, I think this might just be the title of the issue.
Mm.
Let's generate the description as well. So now it summarizes um, what we just uh, um, what we just implemented in this session,
Mm.
and then
It doesn't try to run it.
no, it does not.
No unit tests.
That is the part that I think is seriously lacking right now. Um, so yeah, I would really love to see running the unit tests as just a built-in part of this code generation. In fact, just run, just compile it. Um,
Mm.
I have no idea if this code that I just wrote compiles. Um, it it might. There's a good chance that it does in this case, but yeah, in other cases, I've generated code and then checked out that PR, and that code didn't even compile. So so yeah, you generate the pull request, and then you do not accept that pull request.
Mm.
You pull that locally. You continue to work on it. You make your own changes, maybe with GitHub Copilot participating in those changes as well. But yeah, that's a starting point right there.
But then you can have Visual Studio,
Mm-hmm.
have Copilot, use Copilot again.
Yep.
But that's amazing. I didn't know it was in GitHub.
Yep. Yep. This one, this is currently in beta. Um, so I don't know if they're going to continue improving it or if it's ready to be released soon. Um, but yeah, there are some other features that are that are released which are built into the uh, the GitHub
Mm.
uh, website. So, for example, um, uh, I don't have this one myself, but um, for an enterprise license, you can now opt into adding GitHub Copilot as an assigned reviewer. Yeah, I think it's this one here. So if you add Copilot here, then basically that is, you know, maybe giving its head a little bit too much, but that is having Copilot work in the background and come up with comments on the PR. And I
Okay.
think you might even be able to then cycle through and say, okay, that's a good suggestion. Go ahead and make that suggestion and commit it to the branch.
Mm.
But yeah, you can see here the build has failed. So
Yeah.
oh wow, yeah. So it added yargs to the project file, but it didn't actually run npm install. It just added yargs.
Mm.
So that means it's not in the lock file, and so all of the things
Mm.
that yargs depends upon, not there in the lock file.
I'm missing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one thing that I think they can improve upon is let's take all of these other tools, these other bits of automation, and put that into the workflow,
Mm.
and then it can be a much more powerful Copilot. But
Yeah, but already it's quite amazing. It gives ideas. It gives a plan which can work. It's a lot less typing now.
that's true. Yes.
You just describe the problem. You give a number of ideas, and it comes up with a bunch of code with you, which you can still correct
Mm-hmm.
by giving new ideas
Yeah.
or new declarations.
Yeah. And that's yeah. What you said there about is a lot less typing. That's how I open these conversations with other developers about GitHub Copilot. Um,
Mm.
so it's a better keyboard. So just like using
Mm.
IntelliSense made you a better
Mm.
typist because you could
Yeah.
hit dot and then select something. Um, you know, this makes you a better typist, but it's still you doing the typing. Um, so yeah, with the suggestions, the inline suggestions, or with chat, and then you can apply those to the edit file. Or I don't know if we've played around with this feature, but yeah, let me open some code here. What project am I in? Yeah, this one here. All right, so yeah, I can Control Shift I, and now in addition to the chat, which I'm pretty sure we've used on the stream, there's Edit with Copilot. So yeah, so this is basically a little part of that workflow that we just went through, but now it's
Mm.
running. Well, it's not completely running local because the code and the prompt goes up to the LLM running in the cloud, and then the response comes back. But yeah, if I say here,
It works only when you're online.
yeah, yeah, that is true. So if I say, yeah, I want to, yeah, initialize the uh, authentication provider with OAuth properties loaded from JSON. Now this is already too broad of a of a suggestion. I usually use this with much tighter suggestions.
Mm.
So with this one, I'm asking it to do some design work. But yeah, just to kind of demonstrate what it's doing. So again, it's going through the whole file and regenerating the file now with this this plan in place. But you can see that when I typed in that prompt, it then came up with a plan of I'm going to apply this change to this file, and then went through and applied that change. So it's like, yeah, okay, here's a properties And then we're going to read from files. Going to, let's assume that there's a thing called OAuth. There's not, so now since I'm back in the IDE, I can immediately see that's wrong. But yeah, you've got that living in the IDE, so you can iterate much more tightly with it. And
you can immediately see whether it compiles.
Yes, yeah, because
Yeah.
The IDE already has that. So just Control-Shift-B and build the workspace, and then that's going to come back and say, blah, it doesn't compile.
So it's very good to propose syntax. It's not so good to design things.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. And when you know that it already has all the information, and you're thinking, Claude Shannon, information theory. It's like, in order for you to accomplish this, you need this file. So one of the things I really like to do is, like this one, does it have the script? Yeah, this one doesn't have. This is Jinaga replicator, so it doesn't have the SQL script. That's in Jinaga server, but yeah, I'll say, I have the script file open, create table, all that stuff, and then I'll have an ER diagram that I built in Mermaid, and I'll say, given this ER diagram, modify this script to add the missing files or the missing tables. So then it'll read the script, read in the ER diagram, say this one's missing from that, and so then you'll see in this plan, add this table, this table, and this table to the script, and then it'll run through and do it. So it's got all the information, and that's really just copy, paste, search, and replace.
If you ask it to write queries, for example, will it write optimized queries? Will it propose indexes?
You could ask it to propose indexes, because doing that is taking the information from the where clause and saying, okay, well, given that, and then you'll also want to give it the script that creates the current indexes. So given that where clause and these current indexes, I can see that this one's missing. Would you like me to add that for you? Yes. But and it does a decent job of creating the queries in the first place. But I wouldn't say that it creates optimized queries. It creates queries based on the patterns that you've already used in your project and the patterns that it's seen online. So, if it's learned from optimized queries, it tries to do the same things. So
that might be helpful, because even for SQL, there are so many different constructs, and then sometimes you forget about this, forget about that, and it could propose it. It's much easier to correct something than to come up with something from scratch.
Yes, yeah, that is an important point. Yeah, so this one right here. Yeah, here's my SQL script, which I continue to evolve in an idempotent way for Jinaga server. So, yeah, I'll have this open. Then, in addition to this, maybe I'll have this context. So I've got my Postgres. Oh, that's my specifications. So, yeah, like maybe I'll have the tests open. I'll have the script open, and then I'll have the implementation open. So, then with this Control-Shift-I, I can add files to the context. Just add all the open editors. So now it can see all that information, and then it can even propose changes to all of those files as well. So you can do multi-file edits. So this is really handy when I'm writing a test. The test fails. I just simply copy the test failure, add all these files, paste that in here, and then it says, "Oh, that's failing because you are missing this column. Let me go ahead and add that to the script." And then I'll say, "Oh, make sure that it is idempotent. So check for the existence of the column first." Okay, and then it modifies it, and then you approve.
So with the return from the compiler, the error messages, you can improve its performance.
Yep. Yeah, which is something that you have to do with copy from here, paste into there. So it would be really nice if it was just built in. So after it generated, it would also run the compiler, see if there's a compile error, put that back in, regenerate to fix the error, and then run the tests, put in any test failures, or regenerate to fix those errors. Which is not so bad here because you've got all of that available to you here in Copilot Workspace. That would be really helpful. So I've already got a GitHub action set up to check all of my pull requests. Why not run that GitHub action before even creating the pull request? Why not do that during the code generation process? Then I would know that this thing at least passes the unit test before I create the pull request. So
I see a situation where you have the Copilot and where you have another artificial intelligence compiler, where the compiler comes and complains, "Can you tell Copilot to leave me in peace?" Yeah.
Yeah. That's once we start to approach AGI, that might become a concern. But yeah, we're not even close to AGI. So yeah, these things don't have feelings; they don't have intention, and I've heard it described as they are infinitely patient, but they don't even have patience. They just don't respond in the way that a human would.
No, but beginning of the week, I was talking to, it was through chat with a company, where in the end I say, "This is an amazing company. Yeah, at least a human behind." They reacted even on Christmas Day. I sent some feedback. They reacted, not immediately. I say, "Oh, that's still a company who make their promises true, who's still reactive, who still looks, here's what their customers are saying." And so I wrote a nice message, and I wanted to say, finally, a company without artificial intelligence. And I say, have to be careful because it's such a good artificial intelligence. But no, it was a human behind.
Okay.
It was a human. Yeah.
Yeah, I was expecting you to finish that story with, and then it told me, "Oh, I am an artificial intelligence." Because yeah, one of the guardrails that is commonly put in place is make sure that you reveal that you are a bot. So usually they say that right off the bat. But yeah, if you ask it, "Oh yes, I'm a bot."
No, I was positively surprised because usually before you can reach somebody and even before they solve the problem, you go from one bot to another until you give up. And now it was really a company who solved all the problems.
Yeah.
Good. Oh, it's already
Yeah.
4 o'clock here.
Running a little bit late, but hey. Yeah, we've got some weather here, so I'm not going to be leaving the house. I'll just be working from home. So yeah,
The bad weather?
not in a rush. Yeah, we've we've got some snow on the ground out there. Yeah, it's pretty nice, pretty unusual.
No, here it's winter, but it's still 16 degrees outside for the moment here, so it's okay.
Yeah, Yeah, let me get a little shot out the window. Hey.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Which is very unusual for Texas.
no. At least you don't have the fires there, because in
Oh yes. Oh yeah.
if you see the
That's
images,
bad.
then yeah, you have to be lucky. You have to be at a good place this time.
Indeed.
Good.
All right.
So that was very interesting about artificial intelligence.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna ask Copilot what they think about DWS.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 You can use Copilot for free now, up to a certain number of requests.
Mm,
So yeah, they want people to try it out. Yeah, and I subscribe to the personal level,
mm.
and you know the enterprise level is not that much more expensive. So I'm thinking maybe if this review with Copilot thing is gets to be useful, maybe I'll upgrade. I don't know.
Mm. Good. But first, I still have a meeting a little bit later, so I have to prepare that.
Yeah.
Then the meeting, and then I can. All right, Michael. See you next week.
Yes, indeed. I will see you then.
Okay.
All
Thank you
right.
very much. Bye
Thank you.
bye.
Bye.